We change our minds all the time, but have you ever really stopped to think about how that happens? It's not just a random flip of a switch in your brain. Turns out there's a kind of hidden logic to it, a process that philosophers and, believe it or not, AI researchers have broken down into two really core ideas: belief revision and belief update. So let's dive in and break down the difference.
Let's get personal for a second. We've all been there, right? You swear you left your keys on the kitchen counter. You'd bet your last dollar on it, but they're not there. Or maybe you assume a friend is at home, and then boom, their vacation photos pop up on your social media feed. What just happened inside your head? Well, those little moments aren't just random mental glitches. They actually show us something pretty fundamental about how we think. Turns out, there are two very distinct ways our minds wrestle with these new, conflicting facts. It really all boils down to one simple question. Was your map of the world wrong from the start, or did the world itself actually change on you? To make this crystal clear, we're going to ditch all the abstract jargon for a minute and just use a simple story. It all starts with one basic, everyday belief. Okay, so here's our starting point. Just imagine you believe your cat is curled up, fast asleep on the living room couch. Right now, in your mental model of the world, that's a simple, cozy fact. All right, now let's throw a little wrench in the works. What happens when some new information comes along that directly contradicts what you thought was true? Now, pay close attention here, because this is the key part. The cat hasn't actually moved recently. The world, in this case, is static. The new info isn't telling you that things have changed. It's telling you that your mental map was wrong from the very beginning. Your brain now has to solve a puzzle, a contradiction. You believed one thing, but now you have some pretty compelling evidence for something else entirely. How do you fix your knowledge so it all makes sense again? This process, this is what logicians call belief revision. The key phrase to remember here is static world. The world itself hasn't changed one bit. You're not tracking a moving target. You're just correcting a simple error in your map. You thought the cat was in the living room, but you were just mistaken. Turns out it was in the bedroom all along. The process is actually a pretty logical three-step. First, you have to acknowledge the conflict. Oops, I was wrong. Second, you gotta toss out the old faulty belief to get rid of that inconsistency. And third, you add the new, correct information to your map. The whole goal is to make the smallest possible change to your web of beliefs, to make everything consistent with this new truth. Okay, let's hit the reset button. Now we're gonna look at a completely different scenario. This time, you weren't wrong at all. This time, the world itself is what changes. So this time, your belief that the cat was in the living room was 100% correct. You saw it with your own eyes. But then, something happens. An event. A loud noise scares the cat and it bolts into the bedroom. The world itself has just changed right in front of you. And this is belief update. See the difference? You're updating your mental map not to fix a past error, but to keep up with a changing, dynamic world. Your knowledge was perfectly fine, but then reality shifted, and now your knowledge has to shift right along with it. The way this works is different. You actually see the change happen. Then you just carry that change forward in your mind. Every possible scenario gets updated by that event. The cat was in the living room, now it is in the bedroom. Your new belief just reflects this new reality. Simple as that. Okay, so let's put them side by side, because getting this distinction is really the whole point. I know they might feel kind of similar, but their underlying logic is just fundamentally different. Look, if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this right here. Revision is all about fixing your internal map. Update is about redrawing your map because the territory itself has been totally altered. One is an internal correction, the other is about reacting to an external change. And this table really formalizes everything we've been talking about. Just look at the rows. For revision, the world is static, and your motivation is correcting an error. For update, the world is dynamic, and your motivation is reflecting a change. These ideas are so important they even have these formal names, the AGM and KM paradigms. But the most brilliant insight for me is right there on that last line, minimal change. In revision, you make the smallest possible change to your beliefs. But in update, you assume the smallest possible change has happened to the world. That's a subtle difference, but it's incredibly powerful. Okay, so you might be thinking, this is a neat little logic puzzle, but why does this actually matter? Well, it turns out this exact distinction is the logical engine behind some of the most advanced technology we use every single day. Seriously, think about it. If you're building an AI, it needs to be able to do both of these things. It needs to realize when its internal data is wrong and correct it, That's revision, and it absolutely needs to observe and react to a changing world, like a self-driving car navigating traffic, and that's update. This logic is foundational for robotics, for smart databases, you name it.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures the heart of the matter. It comes from the very researchers, Katsuno and Mendelsohn, who first formally laid out this distinction. Their work literally paved the way for decades of research in artificial intelligence, all by pinning down this subtle but incredibly important difference.
So the next time you find yourself changing your mind, just pause for a second and ask yourself, am I revising a flawed map of the world, or am I updating my map because the world itself has moved? Because knowing the difference isn't just a logic puzzle, it's the key to really understanding how we learn and how we know anything at all.